Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to cross the Øresund once again, and we're going to go back to Sjælland in Denmark and revisit a brewery that's featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, a few different styles, but I would say this brewery are known mainly for their different kinds of IPAs, and in the early days they were also known for their sour beers as well, but I haven't had a sour from them in quite some time. These days though, they release a good number of their beers over here in Sweden, so I always keep an eye out for what ones are being released here, and it's one of their latest Swedish releases that we're going to have a look at today. So hopefully this is another good one, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to go to Sjælland. We're going to go to a little town called Greve, to the southwest of Copenhagen to be specific, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Alefarm Brewing. So this particular beer is called Inferno in Paradise. It comes in at 8% ABV, it's a double IPA, and going by the things that are listed on the can here, with the fact that it's got oats and wheat in it, I'm guessing that it is going to be a New England leaning IPA, this one. But this beer was released here in Sweden as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget for September of 2021, and we usually get one or two different beers from Alefarm here in Sweden every month actually, so I always like reviewing these for you here on the channel because they tend to be pretty solid, as I've said. But looking forward to this one. Let's get cracking with it and see how we go. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Alefarm Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly because of how close I live to Denmark and the fact that I love Danish beer. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Alefarm Brewing once again then. So Alefarm Brewing, as I've told you before, is the brainchild of Andreas Skrik Larsen and Kasper Tiedemann, and the company was founded back in 2015. So Andreas had been a home brewer for a while, but also worked for a period of time as a librarian, whereas Kasper has a very extensive background in the IT sector and is involved in several different companies and organisations, one of which is his own consultancy firm. But originally, they based the company on a farm to the north of Copenhagen, hence the name Alefarm, but they soon moved the business to Køge, which is to the southwest of the city, and for a long time they were just brewing beers on a very small 200-litre brew kit, and this was intended as a sort of pilot or transition kit, if you like. But in 2018, having grown the business over a little while, they opened a new 20-hectolitre brewery in Greve, which has a canning line, and their beer started to be exported abroad at this point as well. It was at this point, though, that Andreas left the company and went into brewing cider, and they also had Mark Walewski brewing for them in the early days, who used to work for Beavertown in London, but he's now brewing with Mikkeller in London still. But the brewery is these days run on a daily basis by Kasper and his wife Britt, and they're very prolific. As of September 2021, when I'm filming this particular review for you, these guys have produced around 340 different kinds of beer, and they're always releasing, you know, a good 5 or 6 different things every month actually. These guys are pumping out lots of different beers. But yeah, as I said earlier, they're mainly known for their different IPAs. We've had West Coasters, we've had New Englands, we've had doubles. I think we've had a couple of black IPAs from them at some points as well, and I've had a few very nice Imperial Porters and Imperial Stouts. So they do different styles, but like I said, this is a brewery who are mainly known for their different types of IPA. But yeah, a very well respected name in Danish craft beer these days, and you can find their beers in a few different places in Copenhagen when you go over there. I think, you know, Fish and Beer in Amager in Copenhagen is the place that I've seen most of the Alefarm beers actually, so that place is definitely worth checking out. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Alefarm Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that is it for your history section. Let's get on and actually have a look at the beer itself. So just to let you have a little look at the artwork on this one, I'm just trying to tilt this so the light actually reflects it quite nicely, because it is quite a pale colour on this one, I guess we could say. But yeah, nicely presented, as you can see. A sort of hand sticking out of the water with a candle wick. It's kind of cool. So yeah, the Inferno in Paradise, because it looks very nice and serene and kind of tranquil there with the tropical island. So yeah, really nice artwork once again. As you can see, there is the Alefarm Brewing Company symbol there. I'll just bring that in so you can see it. So it's like the end of a barn, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, this is a 440ml can. I believe this cost me, I want to say 60 Swedish kroner, because you will pay a little bit more for this beer compared to the Swedish ones because it's an import. Because you know, usually you'll pay about 10 kroners extra, which is about €1. But yeah, that translates to roughly €6 for the can. That will be somewhere in the region of £5.25 sterling, maybe about $7. And yeah, I don't think we need to convert it to anything else. $7 American. But yeah, Inferno in Paradise, 8% double IPA. This one is hopped with Citra and Amarillo, and like I said earlier, it has oats and wheat in it, so it's most likely to be a New England one. But yeah, it doesn't say when it was canned actually, but yeah, we'll get it out and have a taste of it anyway. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Yeah, there we are. So out and into the glass. So just to give you a quick rundown of the hops, as we know, Citra and Amarillo are fairly common ones, to be quite honest with you. We've had these hops many times before. Let's just sugar this up a little bit and see if we get some more hazy stuff out of it. But yeah, Citra and Amarillo we have had before. Both American hops. Citra's going to have about 14% alpha acid, gives you lovely big kind of juicy mango notes. And quite a bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty sort of thing, whereas Amarillo is about 12% alpha acid, and it gives you a lovely big kind of oily, zesty orange kind of character. So yeah, quite a few different things with these hops. Amarillo was always one of my favourites back in the day, but this will be a proper old school fruity character that we'll get from this one actually, so really looking forward to this. So anyway, now we have the beer poured into the glass, we can take a proper look at it. So before the head disappears, we've poured maybe about 75-80% of the beer into the glass, but you can see at the top here there is a nice 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That comes together very nice, but that's going to fade away quite soon to be a very thin foamy layer, but I would definitely say a perfect white head there. But you can see the beer itself is a very kind of bright, pale yellow colour actually. So I would describe this one, if we compare this beer to a fruit juice, I would say that it's very much like a kind of mango juice, to be honest with you. I always like comparing these sort of New Englandy type IPAs to the different fruit juices actually, because that's just what their appearance reminds me of. But you know, you can see on the camera on this one, this has a little bit more of a kind of natural haze thing to it. So you know, maybe it's not right to call this one a New England actually. Maybe I got that wrong at the start of the video, so maybe this is going to be one of their more kind of hybrid ones, because these guys do a very good West Coast IPA, they do a very good New England IPA, but quite often they do a little bit of a kind of hybrid actually. We've had a good few beers that you could call hybrid IPAs if you really wanted to. But yeah, certainly looks the part of a modern IPA. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. That determines the magnitude of the colour. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do and any adjuncts that you put in are going to play a role as well. Usually you only have to care about that with sour beers, so we're not that bothered about it here. But as we said, level of haze is quite natural on this one. So I would say that it's, yeah, I would say that this is, it looks a little bit more like a West Coaster, let's just say that. But the level of haze depends on the oat and wheat content, along with along with the yeast. So yeah, it looks pretty nice actually, this one. It does look really good. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, but the head, as we say, has just faded away to be a very thin foamy layer. But yeah, nothing surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. So I think we should have a little look at the aroma then and see how we go. Let's go for it. Ooh, that does smell pretty nice. Now I'm going to say straight away, I'm not sure exactly how old this one is. One of the problems that we've had with the Alefarm beers recently is that you know, sometimes they have sat for a little bit too long, you know, a couple of weeks too long in the warehouse before Systembolaget have got them out there. And I do wonder if it would be better for Alefarm to release their beers through the små partiers, the tillfällig assortment, rather than the lokala småskaligt. Either that or the import company have to, you know, Systembolaget either have to streamline the process so they can get them in a bit more quickly, or the import company have to be a bit better at sorting that out. There's something in the chain of command or whatever that's not quite working, because yeah, quite often these Alefarm beers are not at their prime freshness, but this one smells pretty decent. You can tell that it's not prime fresh, but it smells all right. But bear that in mind when you try these Alefarm ones. They're not as fresh as you're going to get them over in Copenhagen. But yeah, that's that. But anyway, first impressions of this beer from the aroma. It smells like quite a bready leaning New England IPA, or well, a bready leaning IPA, I guess we could say. The green component is actually quite light and quite fresh, I would say, but not overly zesty or floral. But there's a lovely kind of soft, juicy, fruity character to it as well. So I really like how that goes together. So yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, so I think we can look at this a little bit more in depth then. So let's take the malty side of the beer, as we always do. So, malty backbone to the beer. There's a lovely, soft, white bready sort of thing in here. So you get that nice little bit of a kind of fresh, bread crusty kind of quality. And yeah, soft white bread on top of it, kind of fluffy actually, but you can smell a little bit of the wheat just kind of thickening that out a wee bit. At the back of the nose, you get a little bit of a more wheaty, bitey kind of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, a little bit of a wheaty, bitey kind of character, but not too much actually, not too much. You can smell a little bit of oaty smoothness in there and a little bit of sweetness from it. But yeah, the oats, I think the oats, they come out a little bit more when you take the aroma in a wee bit more deeply, to be quite honest with you. But they don't play too much of a role. Really, I would say this beer leans towards the softer, white bready side of things with a wee bit of bread crust, just a little touch of wheat and a little bit of an oaty character. On the sweeter side of things, now for me, the brown sugary side of this beer, there is a wee touch of a Werther's Original kind of thing in this, a little bit of that butterscotchy, butter candy kind of thing. You do get a little bit of that, but not too much. I get a little hint of you know, McVitie's Digestive Biscuit or something like that out of it. So yeah, there are things in the malt base here that indicate, you know, New England. There are things that indicate West Coast. So remember, West Coast IPAs can go two ways. They can be more kind of bready and biscuity, or they can be more oily and caramelly. So for the West Coast side of things, this is definitely more kind of bready and biscuity. With the New England IPAs, you can take those in a few different directions. They can be sort of yeasty, farmhousey, rye leaning and grainy, wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and bready, or they can be a little bit sweet. So this one really comes across as more sort of barley malt, soft and barley malt leaning. So I'm guessing that the wheat and the oats in this malt base are not too heavy compared to a full out New England IPA. It is a little bit more West Coasty in character, this one. I say that, but I do wonder if we put the rest of the beer in, we'll see if we get more sediment out of it. And you can see that it has got a little bit hazier. There's not really any sediment visible. It's a wee bit, but not too much visible on the bottom of the can there. So yeah, this is what it should look like actually. You sometimes have to be careful with these, but yeah, it looks the part. Let's look at the hoppy side of the aroma then before we actually have a taste of the beer. But yeah, green component then. There's a tiny little bit of soft earthiness to this one, but not overly much. Going by the aroma, whatever kind of IPA this is, I think it's relying mainly on late addition hopping and dry hopping. I don't think there's too much in the way of early addition hops here. If there was, you would, you know, if there was, you would get a lot more deepness and dankness to it, whereas the green component here is quite soft. So a little bit of earthiness, quite a nice but fresh floral aromatic character to it, not too deep, quite bright and fresh, and then a little bit of a kind of grassy, a little bit of a sort of grassy, as we say, yeah, grassy kind of floral, aromatic sort of thing to it. So I really like how that goes together in this one, I have to say. It is very, very nice on that side of things. So yeah, green component for me is quite nice, quite bright, leans towards the grassy side of things, not too zesty, a little bit, but more like a kind of wet, fresh cut grass sort of thing. So yeah, I like that. Bright floral notes behind it, as we said. So I think the fruity side of things is the last thing to do, so let's look at that. And it is, to be honest, pretty much as you'd expect. So for me, you get a wee tiny bit of a passion fruit out of this one, but not a lot. For me, it's a softer, juicy mango, and that's one of the kind of trademark characteristics of Citra. It's exactly as you'd expect. There's a lovely, soft, juicy mango in there. It sounds like the fruit is kind of smells. Why did I say it sounds? I'm mixing up all these sense words. It smells like it's sitting on top of a kind of soft bready kind of thing. There's a wee touch of apricot in there, which I can appreciate, and then you can smell a little bit more of that zesty orange from the Amarillo for sure. You get that slightly more oily but still quite zesty orangey character out of this one, and you do get a wee bit of a more zesty lemony note to this beer, which I can certainly appreciate as well. So I really like that. I really like that about this one. So yeah, a big thumbs up to Alefarm on the nose of this. It's quite straight shooting, but it smells very nice and welcoming and inviting, I have to say. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to ponder over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it's about time that we had a taste of this one. So yeah, let's go for it. So this one is the Inferno in Paradise, a double IPA with Citra and Amarillo, 8% ABV from Alefarm Brewing in Greve, to the southwest of Copenhagen over in Denmark. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, and cheers. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty nice. First impression, quite an oily sort of thing this actually. I would say it is quite an oily kind of solid sort of fruity IPA this is quite an interesting one. It's definitely a hybrid. It's a little bit, just on first impressions, it's quite hard to place exactly where this one is stylistically. Not that that matters. The main question is it a good beer? And I'll say that with this one, yes, but we'll think about that and see where this one kind of places in the style spectrum. So yeah, let's first impression of this beer is that it's, you know, quite smooth and quite oily. Lovely bit of a softer but still quite smooth bready kind of character, and some nice kind of bright grassy sort of things going on there. But yeah, I really like how this beer goes together, absolutely. So on the malty side of things, then we'll just go through the beer as we always do to break it down. The malty side of things is kind of what you would expect, but the oats, I think, come out a lot more than they were given the impression that they would from the aroma. So let's break this down. So straight away across the middle of your palate, you can feel that nice kind of smooth bread crusty sort of thing that goes right across the middle of your palate there, and that's the backbone of the beer. On top of that though, you get a lovely, very, very, very smooth, soft, white bready character. That's great. And then on top of that, you can feel the wheaty layer just kind of smoothing that all out. So I think it's the barley malt and the wheat that are just smoothing everything out. And then you've got that backbone in there, which is great. So on the malty side of things, it's actually, you get a bit more sweetness out of it too, but those things that I was mentioning to you, they come out in the middle third and the back third of your palate. So yeah, bread crust, soft white bread, the barley malt sort of thing, and then the smooth kind of wheaty character sitting on top of that. But let's focus on the middle third of your palate for just now, so let's go there. So either end of that middle third of your palate, you've got a very nice kind of bread crusty sort of thing to it. A nice, yeah, nice kind of smooth. Yeah, well, a nice little bit of a more kind of grainy bread crusty character, I would say. Let's say that. But on top of the wheaty side of things, you can feel the oats, and the oats in this one, yeah, they go right down the kind of middle line of your tongue, and they're quite thick actually. They do thicken up the more that you drink the beer, and you can feel them just spreading out towards the side of your palate as well on top of that wheaty layer. So they just spread out a little bit. They feel very, very smooth, but they do sweeten up a little bit as you push out towards the that middle, towards the extremities of that middle third of your palate. On top of that, you can feel a nice little circle in there, and that's the kind of the brown sugary notes coming out of the beer. It's not too strong, but yeah, you do get a little bit of it. So for me, there's a lovely kind of, there's a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original type vibe to this one. You know, you get a little bit of that Werther's Original butterscotchy, butter candy kind of thing in there, and that's forming the base of the brown sugars. If you go to the dead centre of your palate, you know, there is a wee bit of that, tiny little bit of that kind of just a straight up sweet caramel there. When this beer is 8%, you know, you would expect that, to be quite honest. You would expect that it's an 8%er. You would expect a little bit of that boozy sweetness there, but then as you move out towards the very edges of the palate, you can feel that the beer gets a little bit more kind of biscuity, a McVitie's digestive biscuity character comes out of it. So absolutely. But yeah, that's the middle third of your palate in this one. I think it works quite well. Let's go and have a look at the back third of your palate then. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you've got that nice kind of you can feel a little bit of a kind of bready build up there, and a wee more of a kind of grainy bread crusty sort of thing. But base of that back third of your palate is more base of that back third of your palate is a bit more of a kind of bread crusty sort of thing. Yeah, wee bit bread crusty. Top of that, you can feel the soft white bread. It gets a little bit more grainy, as we say, towards the back of the palate. On top of that, you get the wheat, and the wheat is a little bit more bitey. But I wouldn't say the wheat is so bitey in this one. It's actually really doing a lot of smoothing overall in the beer. But then on top of that you certainly get the more yeasty aspects to the beer. So you can feel that big, that kind of quite tall, but more light and airy yeasty character coming off the beer on that back third of your palate. So when you start at the back of your tongue with this one, you can feel the flavour is quite tall, but as you come further forward, it just condenses down a wee bit, as we always say, and into the middle third of your palate, it is a bit more kind of squashed together. But yeah, that is the malty and yeasty side of this beer. It's quite, the wheat and the soft white bread are the two dominant things in this one, and they're quite squashed together, but they're quite dense at the same time. That's what I would say, but still quite soft. So I like that. This one feels a little bit different from the other IPAs we've had from them in recent times. So it's got a wee bit of the kind of breadiness and smoothness of the New England, but it's certainly got a little bit more, it certainly has a little bit more of the kind of biscuity, bready character as well of the West Coast. So like I say, this one is a little bit more of a hybrid for me. It does come across as more of a hybrid. But let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. So, hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's a nice little bit of an earthy character to this one. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity as well, so a wee touch of earthiness there. You're always going to get that from these beers, of course, but yeah, as you move further forward, a little bit herbal, and as you push towards the kind of front corners of the palate, it's a little bit of a more kind of floral, aromatic-y side of things. So yeah, nice big kind of floral aromaticity out of it. But the floral aromaticity, it has a little bit of depth to it, but not overly much. And again, that tells me this beer is relying more on late addition and dry hopping. So yeah, nice little bit of a deeper floral aromaticity, bit of a wee touch of spice out of it as well. It actually has a little bit of a kind of floral aromatic spice, which is interesting. The earthiness, of course, in this one is going to, I'm not sure if that's going to come more from the Citra or the Amarillo, because I think they both have little bits of that, but round the front curve of the palate, the beer is a little bit more kind of zesty and grassy, and the zestiness out of this beer is really going to come from, I think it's going to come mainly from the Amarillo, but I think the Amarillo is a bit more zesty than the Citra, but the Citra is, of course, going to contribute a wee bit to that as well. So I think both are at it in this one, but that covers the green component for me. It's quite, yeah, a bit smooth, you know, earthiness, herbal quality is smooth, bit of a bright floral note, and then a big kind of grassy floral aromaticity. So yeah, I like how that goes together. So thumbs up on the green component. Yeah, on the fruity side of things then, on the fruity side of things, or the front third of your palate I should say, let's look at that. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice wee bit of a bready build-up in there. Yeah, so a bit of a bready build-up, bit of a bread crust. Then the base of that front third of your palate is a little bit more kind of smooth and soft and bready. So you can feel the kind of oaty, the sort of wheatiness under there, the oaty kind of side of things. You get that kind of dense but still quite soft and smooth white bready note. But on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So again, I do like how that goes together in this one. But yeah, let's start from the back of it on the fruity side of things. So at the very back of that front third of your palate, there's a wee bit of passion fruit in there, as you're always going to get from Citra, but that doesn't stay there too long. As you move further forward, it gives you this quite nice ripe mango sort of thing, and as you move in towards the kind of front, towards the front half of that front third of your palate, it's got a bit of apricot in there, and I do actually get a wee bit of pineapple out of this one. I get a little bit of pineapple out of this beer. But then as you move into the front half of the front third of your palate, this beer becomes more about the Amarillo, but you also get the zesty components of the Citra coming out of this one too. So yeah, you can feel that nice sort of lemon-limey character. You can feel that nice kind of lemon-limey character just underneath that, but on top of that, of course, you get that big, oily, zesty, orangey character out of it, which I really enjoy. So yeah, nice bit kind of zesty sort of notes to this beer on that side of it, and I think the zestiness lingers into the aftertaste. You can feel the sort of lemon-limey notes from the Citra just merging in with the kind of grassy component on the front tip of your tongue too. But overall, I think it goes together pretty well, this beer, I have to say. It's nothing surprising, but it's just well done, and that's kind of what you come to expect from Alefarm. You get pretty solid IPAs from these guys, and that's what they're most known for. So thumbs up to Alefarm once again for this. One of the more oily and bready IPAs I've had in recent times. So I think the breadiness, it's got a bit of breadiness and sweetness to it, which is more west coasty, but then this sort of smoothness and breadiness as well that you get out of this is a little, and the smoothness and oatiness is kind of like a New England, and the fruits are a mixture. So this is really a hybrid IPA for me. You can't really say exactly what this one is, but it works. It does work. So let's round off the review with the mouthfeel then. So for me, the mouthfeel of this beer, top end and mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth on this, but there's a degree of crispness to it, particularly towards the back of the palate. I get that. And overall, it's quite an oil. I think this one's quite a slightly, more of an oily and slick IPA in my mind. It's really like that. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this one, I think this is about your standard 30, to be honest with you. Yeah, this is your standard 25, 30 IBUs. Don't think any more than that. Green component though is quite nice and bright and a bit zesty, so I like that. The malt base is very, very smooth and a bit dense, but has a bit of sweetness on top of it as well. Then you've got that lovely juicy fruity character, which has a good balance between the kind of tropical side of things and the more citrusy, zesty end of the spectrum. But yeah, it's a solid beer, this. If you know Citra and Amarillo, you are going to enjoy this one. And like I said, stylistically, it's a little bit of a hybrid. It's got a bit of the oiliness of a West Coaster, and a bit of the sweetness of the West Coaster as well, but it's got the kind of smoothness and almost creamy character, if you like, of an ale farm, of a New England. So, but the creamy character isn't too prominent, I guess we could say. But yeah, we can leave it at that for this one. Another nice beer from Alefarm Brewing, which is not a surprise these days. So yeah, this one was the Inferno in Paradise, a double IPA, 8% ABV with Citra and Amarillo from Alefarm in Greve, to the southwest of Copenhagen on Sjælland in Denmark. So yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Alefarm, and we will return to these guys at some point soon. They're always releasing new beers. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my other reviews, check out my social media, check out theirs, and see you guys in the next one. Slàinte, Skål, and